Okay, here's the tutorial for the Valentine's tags. Disclaimer, I just got braces just 2 days ago. So if you hear me lisp, you heard it right. I'm still trying to get used to them. I've never had them, so I'm not quite sure how to deal. Okay, for mine, I'm only going to use 3 paint colors. I gave everybody else 4. The first thing you want to do is arrange your pieces by color. So kind of have an idea of how you want to paint everything, and then arrange that. The first thing you're going to do is paint your large tag. This one, I'm going to do gray. I already did another one, so the paint I give you is plenty, which you'll notice. I've already used this to paint another tag, and I'm going to use it to paint this, and I will still have leftover. So use your foam brush to paint the large tag. If you want your edges to stay dark, then you want to angle your brush. So don't flood your brush, just put a small amount of paint and then angle it, do you see that, up as you get to your edge. That way you're going to avoid drips down the sides. If you get a little bit on the edges, you can either ignore it. It's homemade, so it's really not a big deal. You can sand it, just very lightly sand it, and it'll come right off. Or you can take a black Sharpie, or a brown Sharpie is probably better, and just outline the sides, and it will cover the paint right up. So what I do once I get to the bottom edge is I do a very tiny motion like this, and then I go in the same direction so that you don't see 2 different paint directions. So I'm going to push pause on this video so it doesn't get to be an hour long and finish this. Once this is completely dry, just look at the background. If it's completely colored the way you want it to, you only need 1 coat. But if you want it to be a little bit darker or have a little bit more coverage, then do 2. The biggest thing that need you to take away is very, very light coats. It's going to look more professional. It's going to dry a lot more evenly if you're doing 2 light coats instead of 1 heavy coat. Once you have that done, I just needed to do 1 coat. My last one I did 2, and I still have this much paint left, so you should have plenty. Now, if your small tag was the same color as the big tag, go ahead and use your foam brush to paint that as well. Once you get to the tag, you have 2 options. You can either rinse this out and then let it dry and paint that. But I'm just going to go ahead and use my foam wedge. You're going to use your wedges for all the small cutouts. The small tag is a little bit bigger, so you could go either way, but for simplicity, I'm just going to use this for the small tag as well. I'm going to show you how to do the small pieces. You're going to take the edge of your foam wedge. You don't want to get it completely saturated. I just put a small amount on the edge and then dab the excess off. Sorry, I don't know if you can see that on your plate. Your first coat is going to be so light, and you're just using the edge. Do you kind of see how I have this up, angled upwards? That's going to help prevent any dripping down the sides. And again, the light coats. Otherwise you're going to have drips and splatters, and it's just going to dry very unevenly. This should only take 2, maybe 3 coats of very light paint, and then it will be done perfectly So I don't know if I mentioned, if you notice, I'm dabbing, not wiping. Just dab up and down multiple times. Okay, I'm going to finish doing this color. Then I'm going to go back and give it another coat. And then I'm going to move on to these cutouts as well. I'm going to do those a different color. Same process, but I will get back on as soon as I'm done. I'm doing my last coat on my love, and I just wanted to reiterate how important it is to use the dab, wipe off, and dab technique. So dab on your paper plate, dab off the extra, and then dab as you're going. Not wiping, dabbing. I included a brown piece of paper in all of your kits to protect your work surface. Obviously, I did not use it for mine, but this is glass, and so it wipes clean very easily. I should probably take better care, but I did not. Okay, so as you can see, I got a little bit on there, but if you do that technique, it really doesn't have that much unless you actually grab it with a dirty finger, but it really doesn't have that much over paint. So you can go as slow as you want to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't mind a little bit. If it was dripping down, I would sand it off or color it, but with just that little bit amount, it doesn't bother me at all. Okay, this is not quite dry, but dry enough. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your washer. You'll notice on one side is the brand stamped into it. I glue that side down. So the front for mine is, I don't know if you can see, it's the flat plain finish. You do not have to use this. This is just for extra looks. If you want a really rustic look, I'm looking at you, Caitlin, you can drop this washer in equal parts vinegar and hydrogen peroxide with like a dash of salt in there. Leave it overnight and it will get super rusty. That's not what I'm going for with this one, so I'm not going to do it. I've used this super glue for about 5 other projects, so let's see if it gets me through this one too. Always open over a paper plate and not over your project unless you want a really sad moment of where it spills all over. Okay, you don't need that much. I'm just doing a thin strip around the middle part. You want to leave it away from the edges, otherwise it's going to splurt out. You're gluing on the side where there's paint, but I'm going to look on the back so I can center it. Does that make sense? Oh, just like that. That was actually, oh, and then I moved it when I looked down. Center it and then hold down for like maybe 10 seconds so you can see how it's centered from the back. After 10 seconds, it probably won't be completely dry, but dry enough that you can move on. Okay, then I'm gonna close this paint because I will spill everywhere. Get your ribbon. You are going to do it right underneath that washer because you need enough room for your X's and O's. And if you put that up, you can see where it really needs to be pretty close under that washer. About right there is great. And I just eyeball it to make it straight. I stretch it around the front. And then you can do either super glue. On my first project, I used super glue, but I noticed I tried like 3 different ribbons. Some of the ribbons, it was really messy. So you can do a dab of super glue, hold it down, dab of super glue, hold it down. Or I did include glue dots. So if you'd rather do that, whichever one will work just fine. But hold it tight, and then I'm going to do one glue dot, if it will come off on the fabric. There we go. And secure it that way. So it's not going to be super secure, but the twine that you're going to wrap around it is also going to hold it. So that's what we've got so far. Then for the twine, take out, you obviously have 3 pieces, 2 that are shorter and then 1 really long one. Take out the really long one. And then what I've kind of figured out, you want to leave a tail in the front. So I've kind of figured out that if I hold it about till this end is at the end, that's about right. So I hold this here and then I start just wrapping around about 3 times. And you can be messy, you can have it in straight lines, however you want to wrap is great. And then once you get around 3 times, you just tie as if you were tying your shoe. So you can put it in the middle, you can put it on either side. I don't know where I put my bow last time, but I'm putting it here. And I didn't have quite a very long tail on this one. And so I want, obviously, I will be trimming this piece to make it even. You might have to try this out a couple times to figure out the different lengths that look good for you, that you left the tail down. So just be aware of that. Okay, then we move on to our X's and O's. I eyeball mine. If you need it to be perfect, you can reach out to me and I will help you figure out the measurements. But basically, if you can place your first and last letter, can you see this in the camera? Then the other 2, you just make somewhat even. And the X's are kind of bouncy, so I just even up the bottoms. Then you take your super glue, which I laid my, apparently I ran out of memory, and it's only going to let me record for a little bit. So you take your super glue. Again, stay away from the edges, otherwise it's going to splurt out. I literally just do 1 line, if I don't run out, down the middle. Again, you'll have plenty of super glue. I've used this for several projects. Once you place it down, kind of press it down for just a couple times, and then next one. I don't know if you can see. You have to work somewhat fast with this super glue because it does dry pretty quickly. And like I say, I eyeball. If that's going to bother you, you can reach out to me and I will help you find exact measurements, and you can tape things off and do all that. I forgot to mention, especially if you have a lighter background on your tag, make sure that you're washing your hands after painting in between setting these down. Otherwise, you're going to have paint transfer. This is about my 6th tag that I've made. And this one's going in my daughter's room. So I'm not that concerned. I probably should care more, but I don't. Okay, then you get your tag and your love and your heart. You can put it any way you want. You can put the love going straight with the heart like this. I think for this one, I'm going to have it go diagonal and put the heart right there. Yes. So, as you can see, there are some really, really thin spots. Don't put super glue on those. The super glue is strong. You don't need it on every single part. So I'm just going to concentrate on the fatter areas. I'm running out. Okay. And then place that. And the same with my heart. Just kind of do a little V. Okay, almost done. So then, to make the hanger, you can just tie a knot. You can do however you want. I like the little like decorative loop in the front. So how I do that is I take the two ends and I pinch them together. And so then the middle part that's left, I'm going to go through the back of my tag and pull that. Then put your fingers through, grab those two ends and pull them through. So it gives it just kind of like a little loop. And then I just tie a normal knot at the end, or you can leave it loose so that you can tie it directly to your wreath, which is what I did on my first one. And then I can cut the ends off if I wanted. And I'm going to do the same thing with that small tag. So again, take the ends, hold them to pinch them together, take that middle part and put it through the middle. Whoops. Grab the ends and pull it through, just like that. So I included 3 glue dots, I believe, with every kit. Technically you don't need any. You can just use your super glue. But if you used it to secure the ribbon, that was only 1. And the other 2 is just because in case you dropped it or it just crumbled or something. So you either have 2 separate tags that you can decorate with in separate areas, or let's say you wanted yours to kind of permanently stick together. You can put the glue dot on the back of the small tag, but then make sure that that's where you want it to stay and kind of press it down. And I included this stand with everybody's first order. I painted mine black, then you just put it together. You can either use this for something else, or if you didn't want to put this on your front door,